Hello and welcome back to Randomly Generated Conversations. I am Bastion Sellers and I'm here with my dad Wesley Sellers.
Hello.
And this is the podcast where we take a random conversation starter and we go from there. This is on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're listening on Spotify, there's a poll every week. So participate in that poll and we'll give you the results at some point in the future.
Awesome. The first topic for today is, what is the best room in your house?
The living room. Actually, no, the green room.
Okay. Also known as a family room.
Uh-huh. Because I can chill in there and lay down.
Okay. Why the green room? In the living room, you can chill and lay down if you want.
That's true, but in the green room, we have, comfy chairs.
Is it the comfy chairs, or is it the fact that there's a television in that room?
Maybe.
But in our living room, we have nature's television.
Uh-huh, a window.
A window. Bastion's looking out the window again. That reminds me of, from Crudes 2.
Yeah.
What do you call this? A window.
Window.
All he does is sit around all day watching the window. He even brings a mobile window with him when he goes.
Which is nowadays called a phone.
Right? I remember when they had the little mobile TVs. In cars, you'd have a little disc player in it and everything. And nowadays, you just Bluetooth it from your phone if you have one of those.
Yeah, and something I realized is we still have mobile windows.
In a car. Because
we're
moving. Oh, Microsoft too. That's true. Although there's not many Microsoft phones anymore, so there's not really Windows Mobile. It's just mobile
true.
Windows. A car, those are mobile windows. Because they're windows that are moving, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the green room, the family room, because it has comfy chairs and a TV. How about the kitchen?
I spend a lot of time in there. I just kidding. No, the kitchen's okay, I'd say, because we don't really we do a lot of talking, at the dinner table, but not as much as we, not a lot of talking, but we'll, go and talk afterward and stuff like that most of the time.
We spend a lot of time talking in the car as well.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm picking everybody up from school, seeing how their day goes. And then I do like that we have our dinner time together and we kind of have that set. So it also gives a chance to have a full group conversation as needed and everything. We're going to get into the rate my room. Going through the house, rating the rooms one by one. Now, my favorite room is probably the bedroom, because that's where I sleep. And I think I've specified before that I love my sleep. The living room's nice because we have a pretty good view from the living room. And it's light. You don't have to turn on a light to have it light in there. Just from the outside, it's a pretty bright room, which I like.
Especially with winter.
With winter,
it's
nice.
Bright.
Mm-hmm. The kitchen, not just because I like to eat, but because I like to cook.
Oh, I like cooking too, so I guess the kitchen is one of my favorites.
I like to cook, I just don't like to do the cleanup afterwards, right? So, I like to be in the kitchen while I'm cooking and then hurry and get out of the kitchen afterwards. And get kind of in trouble for that.
And then the person that's dishes, they get to do the dishes for you.
Yep. Although, many times they don't.
Because you get caught.
That ends up either my wife or I doing the dishes for them. You guys are pretty good about loading a dishwasher. But when you have to wash by hand, And you
That's
get
not
some
fun.
sketchy work going on there. We haven't taught you enough to how to work hard.
Ah, run! It's the wash my hands dishes.
Right? What are some other rooms in the house? Bathroom? It's always a good... Imagine a house without a bathroom.
That wouldn't be up to code.
I mean, you could have an outhouse, but it's nice to not have to walk out in the cold to go use the bathroom or to...
Reminds me of Shrek.
To shower and have to
He
be
has the
freezing.
outhouse
Mm-hmm.
outside his house, so...
Well, that's a common thing. I believe even my dad growing up, he grew up on a farm. I believe they had a outhouse that they used for a while.
Okay.
I may be wrong with that, but from my understanding, because I've seen where they used to live, and it was a small little area like they used to back in the time. And I believe, yeah, they had a outhouse for that. But they had a nice amount of land, having a farm and everything else, which was nice. All right, so does technology simplify life or make it more complicated?
I think both.
Okay.
It simplifies life because you can, like, instantly search up, hey, I need this answer, this and that, if it's not like you're cheating for a test or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it helps because it's like, okay, I need this answer, I need to know what this is, I need to know this. But it complicates life because you have this phone in your hand that you can basically do anything you want on it.
Okay.
It gets complicated because you could be watching YouTube or TikTok or whatever like that and be getting behind on schoolwork due to it's very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I had experience with watching YouTube, a lot of YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really do so well grade-wise for a little bit.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out why your grades were slipping so much, and we're like, well, we're not letting him play games during the week, we're not letting him watch TV, but come to find out you're watching a lot of YouTube on your laptop. Once you no longer were watching as much of that, your grades started to go up again. So yeah, it definitely can complicate that way. I think that even though technology simplifies things, such as you have a GPS as opposed to a map, and a map's a little bit harder. When we used to have to do research assignments back in the day, because I'm so old. No, it wasn't even that long ago, but we used to go to the library, check out an encyclopedia, or see whatever other research material we can do there. I don't think you've ever even opened an encyclopedia in your life.
Yeah, I have.
You've opened Wikipedia.
The e-encyclopedia. So the online one.
Have you even read through it? Well, of
no.
course you wouldn't read through the whole thing.
I did my book report on the encyclopedia and the dictionary. Now, my book report's about the words, this, and this, and the letter A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Right now, if you want to know about something, you just go to Wikipedia instead of the encyclopedia. And you probably think Thesaurus is a type of dinosaur.
Thesaurus?
Right? Thesaurus?
Thesaurus? No. Wait. What is that? I feel like I know what a thesaurus is.
We used to have to look through that. It's
a book. I know that much.
Well, yes. So you would have a dictionary and then a thesaurus. You would oftentimes even have like a combined dictionary thesaurus in this big book. You could buy them that way, Webster Dictionary and thesaurus. And basically it would tell you synonyms to words.
Okay, that's a thesaurus.
So...
It does.
what's another word like brave? And you'd look it up, brave. Okay.
Courageous.
Courage, valiant, and it'd have all those words listed with a little short definition of what those meant. And that way you could sound smart when you're writing a paper.
So basically a smart dinosaur then.
Right, a smart dinosaur. Nowadays, kids just don't sound smart when they write papers.
No.
They'll just copy whatever they find from the Wikipedia or from an unreputable source online.
Yeah, we can't use Wikipedia at our school. If we use Wikipedia, they're like, well, certain times we can. Certain assignments, certain, like, assessments. They're not, like, full-on assessments and stuff like that. You have Open Neighbor, Open Book, Open Encyclopedia.
Open Wikipedia.
Open Wikipedia. Basically anything you need sometimes. But then you have those classes where you don't get anything and you have to actually study for stuff. Oh.
Actually study?
Exactly. But nowadays, a thesaurus is a dinosaur, type of dinosaur.
Yes.
I mean, with my generation...
So's a printed dictionary is also a dinosaur at this point.
There was a machine in one of my teacher's room, and she called it the dinosaur. Because it was a machine that you'd put, like, an image on there, and it have this light, and it would show the image on the screen.
A projector for the transparents. And then you'd have to wash off those little film things that you would write things on. Oh, I loved those. I loved to go up and... That was the only time I'd raise my hand in class is in math. If I got to write on one of those things to do the problem. Because that was lots of fun. Again, that was elementary school. By the time I got into high school, they were just using chalkboards. I mean, they had chalkboards back then, but...
Then you had your smart whiteboards and stuff like that.
Not when I was in high school.
No.
That was like
nowadays,
when I was graduating from college. They finally started to get smart boards.
That's what I'm meaning. And nowadays schools have like the big old smart boards where you can literally draw on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can do whatever.
And that's like touchscreen too, so you'd be like putting your PowerPoint up to this board. You could draw stuff along the PowerPoint and then still use it as like the buttons there as a touchscreen.
Yeah, I think it's funny because parents, like in my parents' generation, they had all these, like, stuff that looked very super cool because it was more, like, high-tech kind of, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, oh my gosh, this and that. Nowadays, it's like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. And you're like, yeah, this is super cool. Oh my goodness, there's more technological advancements. With my generation, we only saw the technological advancements.
Mm-hmm.
So we never had to read, like, the big dictionary or the encyclopedia or the dinosaurus. I mean, the thesaurus.
You never had to learn the Dewey Decimal System and
Actually, we did. At one point, they had, like, this entire song. It went, hi, my name is Dewey. Nice to meet you. How you do? Yeah, it was... It was random, but it helped me remember the Dewey Decimal System.
I remember we used to have time. I know you still have library time in school, but we would have time to go to the library. The librarian would read us a book, and then we had a really old guy talk about a dinosaur. He'd be like, today we're going to learn about the Dewey Decimal System. And that was how he would talk through the whole... explaining it to us. And then we would have to go, if we wanted to figure out if a book was in, we had this card catalog that you'd go through, and you have to see, oh, nope, it's been checked out by this person, or it's there, and then you go and it's not there, and couldn't find out. Somebody didn't fill out the tag for checking it out and everything. And I remember when our... local libraries, not the school libraries, but local libraries started to have their available on these computers. It was a DOS-like system. It was just simple words. You type in the name of the book, and it would say whether it was there or not. And then you could telnet into the library. They'd have a number that you could call through your modem to where you could connect and see if the books were available. This was before you had web pages, right? You actually had to call through your computer to the library's computer, wait for the connection to establish, hoping somebody else isn't calling at the same time. And once the connection's established, you're hoping nobody picks up the phone, because once they pick up the phone at your house, it disconnects your computer from the line.
Ooh.
But I thought that was the coolest thing because I didn't have to go down there and look through this big card catalog to figure out if the books were available. Nowadays, a lot of times you don't even need to go down to the library to even get the book. You can rent the digital version of it.
That's
or
true.
check it out.
Or you buy it at the store. Like, you could buy it at stores, I'm pretty sure, when you were a kid, too.
No, when I was a kid, we didn't have stores.
Oh, okay.
And stores definitely didn't sell books.
No, they didn't. It's not like there's bookstores.
There was far more bookstores then than there were now. We used to have a store we would go to that was a used bookstore. So you would go in and you'd trade your books. You're done reading it, you go and trade and buy a new one. And you never knew what they were going to have. It looked like a room in a house just full of these shelves with books on it. So you'd go and try to find a good read or something from it. And, you didn't have a lot of chance to go look, I want a review of this book. I'm going to check on my phone. Because you couldn't check that on your phone. Yeah. It wasn't smartphones. So you'd have to look through, kind of read the back of it. And literally you'd have to judge a book by its cover. Nowadays, as to whether you think it was going to be good or not.
Nowadays, we can't judge a book by its cover.
Right? So does technology make things more complicated or easier? In a sense, yes, it makes things more easier because you can use a GPS instead of a map. A map you'd have to update regularly for any road updates. Yes, you can get books and everything easier. But I think it also makes it much more complicated.
Yeah.
Because, just take, for example, social media, okay? And even news websites. We used to find out about the news watching it twice a day. 5 o'clock news and 9 o'clock news. Some people had 6 o'clock news and 10 o'clock news. And that's when you would figure out what was happening during the day. Or the next day when the newspaper came. Nowadays, you're bombarded by news moment after moment.
Yeah.
If you want to keep in touch with your friends, you'd write a letter or you'd call them and say, hey, how are you doing? And so you'd keep in touch with, 5 or 6 good friends. And, hey, what's been happening the last week or two? Nowadays, the average person probably has 300 to 500 friends on Facebook. Some of them they don't even know. And so they're bombarded with information about every step of everybody's life there on Facebook.
It starts making your life feel like it's not comparing.
Right, you start to compare because you're seeing all the good things about them. Or you start worrying about, oh my gosh, all these other people are having these problems. And instead of having this set of people that you would care about and you keep in touch with, now you're worried about all these people that you don't usually even have a conversation with. You'll read their feed. Oh, yeah, I know what's going on in their life. When's the last time you talked to them? Well, 5 years ago. But yet you know every step they've taken over the last month or so. Well, and so in that sense, it complicates things. As well as like with the news, now we're not just seeing our local news twice a day. We're getting news from all around the world every second of the day. And it becomes overwhelming.
It's helpful in a sense, but not helpful in other senses.
Right? I don't think our minds are meant to process that much. Right? It used to be a simpler time before my time, but even during my time when I was younger, we didn't have all that. Even games, you'd wait for the next Mario to come out or the next Tekken Super Bowl game, right? Back on Super Nintendo or Nintendo. And there would be long times between game releases. Now, if you're an avid gamer, you don't have enough time in the day to keep up with all the games that are constantly coming out. And you'd play through a game, you'd beat the game, and then you were done with it. You might go back a couple years later and play it again. Or, let's do it. Try to get through this quick with friends and see how we could do it. I mean, the first Mario didn't even have save points. You used it because it was expected. Well, I think even 2 and 3, because it was expected that you could beat it in a day or within a couple hours. Nowadays, you beat a game, and then they're releasing patches and expansions for it over and over again to keep you coming back to it. I mean, it's great for marketing and stuff, But it becomes overwhelming
Yeah,
because
it's hard to keep up.
it's hard to keep up. And you feel like you have to keep going or you're going to get behind everybody else because now they're also, multiplayer and even if it's single player, you pay to win. If it's single player, you have online, the leaderboards and everything, so you want to keep up with that. And so it becomes very overwhelming even for people that are avid gamers because there's so much. How are they going to keep up and stay on the leaderboard of all these games and everything? So in all aspects, there's a lot more overwhelming nature of all this. As well as work, for example, is another one. That it used to be, you leave from work, and on your drive home, if your boss needed something, well, he couldn't get a hold of you. You didn't have a cell phone. He would have to call you on your landline when you got home. When you were out getting groceries, work wasn't following you around there. You often didn't have email access from home because you weren't bringing home a work laptop. So you would leave work and work was done for the day unless you got a call, and it was a little harder because you have to go back into the office and everything. But nowadays, you carry your work around with you everywhere. On your phone, you often have your work emails. So you're getting emails all the time from work.
Yeah.
They can easily text you and call you. So you never really fully disconnect from that. And so again, it's complicated. You're never disconnecting from people, from work, from all these things. Where back in the day you would choose who you connected with and who you followed up with. You weren't trying to follow up with everybody or keep on top of everything. I think that's where it complicates things. Definitely a lot of quality of life improvements. A lot of stuff has made it nicer and even made some games more fun and everything. But that same stuff, taken too far, has caused an overcomplication in our life. I believe that.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the leaderboard thing. You may be the leaderboard for, the first couple days that, it started the game, maybe. The first couple days you got the game. But then, think about it. On the other side of the world, it's going to be if you're playing during nighttime, they're playing throughout the day. Somebody hops on from, the other side of the world. They're playing throughout the day, and they're playing during the night while you get on still. And they could be playing all-nighters. But you might be playing, a little bit during the day and can't play during the night. And they're going to be playing during the day, and they could be playing during the night due to nights are a little later than basically are. So.
Mm-hmm. Or our nighttime is their day, so while we're asleep at night,
they're winning everything.
We're sitting there so worried and stressed out. Oh my gosh, are they gonna surpass me while I'm asleep at night? So you create a type of insomnia and everything. Insomnia. That
sounds like a zombie disease now.
That's
Insomnia, the movie.
A zombie with insomnia.
How does that work?
Do zombies even sleep?
That's a question for another time.
Yes, that should be a question for another time. We should do an episode that focuses around zombies, vampires, werewolves, all these, underworld type creatures, and debunk the myths based on our best knowledge and our best guests.
That would be fun.
All right, so transitioning from that, if your mind were an island, what would it look like? So if my mind were an island, it would be a big jumbled mess with a snowy volcano and a sunny beach at the bottom of that snowy mountain where nothing really knows its place.
If my mind were an island, it'd probably have a bunch of random stuff just all sectioned on the island, and it's even though it may not be it may be deserted, it may not. It depends on what my brain thinks, because I go every day with thousands of thoughts, and some days I have to keep them to one thought. So during school, I have to keep the thoughts to, okay, it's school time. Keep the thoughts to school.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets hard because my brain goes, but what about this? 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 Thinking about, oh, this song, this, oh, you could be doing this right now, or you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. And it's like, okay, just keep focusing on that. So, yeah, it'd be a jumbled up or deserted island.
Okay. I was kind of joking about the mess there. I think my mind as an island would be a series of islands. Right? To borrow kind of the idea from Inside Out, right? I'd have these separate islands. They could be somewhat connected because they all are. But it would be this probably combination of multiple islands, but with a very fast current going through them. To the point that it'd be very hard to navigate from island to island. Because I think that's what I struggle with in my mind regularly. Is there's things that are constantly on my mind. My family, my wife, kids, their well-being. Just constantly thinking about them because I'm proud of a lot of their accomplishments and love thinking about them and ways to help them. So there's definitely that. There's the work part with the businesses. And even that would be kind of separated into 3 different biomes. Because there's the 3 different businesses, but they kind of bleed into each other a little too much. I think need to construct some walls around that island at this point. And then there's the island with the house and trying to keep that under control and not let that get out of hand. And that's constantly in my mind, as well as health and financial. So all these, some feed into others, but it's easy to just you start off in one island and then the current just takes you and just whip through all these other islands and everything. Wait. I need to stop at this one. I need to focus on here.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of, so this is going to be out of the blue and mostly random, but kind of reminds me of like Fortnite, what they've taken so far. On their new little season, they basically went to like little different islands, sort of. So yeah.
Okay.
Basically the different things. They have like the different places you can go. So it's not just the regular map. And yeah.
That was random. But yeah. I think that's the hard part, is a lot of times I get caught up in the current instead of staying on the land. You know, when I'm supposed to be focusing on one thing, instead I'm just in the water, probably trying to swim against the current, but watching all these other things pass by and be like, oh yeah, well I should stop here. But by the time I say that, I'm already floating past that one as well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my mind goes, is it's just jumping between these different islands. So still a little more defined as to what each of these things are, but there's definitely not like a balanced, like I need to build some walls around some, have some bridges between them instead of trying to constantly swim from island to island.
Yeah.
So he says yours is like a jumbled mess. Mm-hmm. So how could you unjumble that? If you could design your ideal but achievable island based off of that jumble you have now, what would the island look like? Probably
it would have like neat, nice sections instead of being jumbled all together. Like my bedroom, it looks like a jumbled up mess. This is what my island looks like right now. It looks like my bedroom, a jumbled up mess of clothes, objects and everything else like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be for me, like, if I cleaned my bedroom, little nice sections where you could have the different little things. My mind would have an area where I just go for school and stuff. And, like, okay, I can understand. It's just school time, this and that. Other half of the island could be, like, another part of the island could have D&D, could have music, could have a lot of other stuff. But at least they're sectioned off.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I can choose which islands I go to at the different, different sections of the island I can go to at different times.
So you'd like to organize it a little bit more into separate sections instead of just throwing it all together. I think that's similar to what, how I would like mine. Like, I think mine are pretty well separate, but it's the transportation between them.
Yeah.
If I could make mine more ideal, like I said, on Business Island, I would put better walls around each of them so they don't start eating up the time of each other or bleeding into each other and one starting to kind of push the other out. But I think through all the islands, I would have a better, probably a bridge system as well as maybe a rail system that could go across all the islands with multiple stops in each island.
Yeah.
And then create one island in the middle that connects to all of them. And on that island, you could have one of those, like the scales of justice, right? And have that be Balance Island. And hopefully, at some point, that island would grow enough that now all these little islands are all one big island, but with balance in the middle.
Yeah.
So that would be my ideal island in my mind, if
Would it be
if possible.
Myland?
Myland?
Yeah, mine island. Or my island.
My island?
It works both ways.
Uh-huh.
A myland.
Yes, so island would be that. Alright, so with that being said, as you continue to build your island, what is one thing you miss about being a kid? I know you're still a kid, but think about your younger self. What is one thing you miss?
Something I miss was having the, barely a care in the world, sort of, where you could, be a little kid, you could go have fun at recess, go do, basically have fun, not go to school as, not have as many classes, I actually went back to as many classes I had when I was a kid. It's never mind. I only had one classroom. But it was split into 4 sections. So, yeah, it's crazy, because I'd love to, go back to my, time where I had the recess, where I could take, the break. Even though lunch is technically recess nowadays, it's not recess. So, yeah.
Okay. I think one thing I miss about being a kid is not having to pay bills.
That's what I'm
not
gonna
having
miss.
to have that worry or that responsibility. Not saying I didn't have responsibility as a kid. I did. But the responsibility I have now is a lot more punishing if I don't do what I'm supposed to. When I was a kid, if I didn't clean something when I was supposed to, or I was supposed to check in with my parents, I didn't check in, I may get in trouble. But that was the extent of what happened. You'd feel horrible because you never wanted your parents to be disappointed in you. But nowadays, if I was like, I'm just not going to pay my mortgage or, water bill, heating bill, then
Yeah.
those things get shut off. There's a lot bigger issue with that. So I think that's what I miss the most, is that can grow and try to learn responsibility without having a huge, how do I put that? Like a huge consequence.
Yeah.
If I were to mess up. And so that causes me to be less or more risk adverse, right? Less likely to take risks.
Yeah.
Which, jumping into business, everything with our businesses, it was a huge step to decide to do that because there's a lot of risk involved. I had to make sure, okay, I need to know that these boxes are checked and we're going to be good here, 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 here as I do that. And it took me many years to do this, even though I wanted to do it maybe 10 years ago or more. I had to make sure I was in a position where the risk was not as high. But as a kid, you don't have very far to fall. Yeah, there's getting into like drugs or addiction and stuff. Yeah, that's different. Then there are a lot of long-term consequences of it. But a 17-year-old trying to start a small business in something, right?
Or a garage band.
Or even a garage band. Where's the risk in that?
Not really any.
Not really any. If they don't make it, well, they don't have all those. I mean, some do. But the majority don't have all those other responsibilities that they could lose everything by not being successful in that, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to gain, even if it's a small potential, than there is to lose. But if you're 30 and you quit your job to start a garage band because you're playing all the time, well, now you have a little more risk.
Yeah, because you might not make as much money due to you're just starting out and stuff like that.
Right, and okay, how are you going to pay for the house with the garage to have the band? You know, I think I wish I would have done more when I was younger to prep for now.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's much I could have done. Because part of what's allowing me to do this now is the experience I gained through these years. That if I would have done more earlier, I still wouldn't have had the experience. So I still would have had to wait.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying I would trade that for anything. It's made me who I am today and all that. But I do miss that portion of childhood where I could make a mistake and the worst that would happen is maybe my parents getting upset with me. And again, I don't think I would really change anything in the past. Because the past is what makes us today. There's always that paradox. If you go back and you try to relive something from the past and change it, well, you wouldn't have gone back to make yourself change that because you wouldn't have made that mistake.
So then you make a mistake again.
So you make a mistake again. You're right. We talked about that with the time travel. So it's not something I regret, really. But it's definitely something I miss. And something I would love you guys to go out and take those risks, right? Well, you don't have much to lose at this point. As long as you're being smart about the risks, too. I mean, trying to make your own parachute out of a plastic bag and jumping off the roof. That might just be dumb. But when it comes to work and everything, if there's things you want to try now, then I would recommend doing it while you don't have, a lot of other responsibilities, to where you can succeed or fail without much consequence other than learning from your success or your failure.
Yeah.
And failure is never a bad thing, although it does get harder and more difficult the older you get in life, depending on what you fail on, right? So I think that about wraps up this episode for today. Make sure to participate in the poll. Give us your opinion on one of the items we talked about today. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. And make sure to tune in next time.
And we'll see you later.
Bye.